Hello, my name is Luis Jimena. I am professor of law at the University of Valencia and former president of the European Committee of Social Rights of the Council of Europe. First of all, I want to express my gratitude to Pragma for giving me the opportunity to share my humble message of hope and solidarity with the Croatian people in these tragic moments caused not only by the health and humanitarian crisis related to coronavirus, but also by the terrible earthquake that devastated Croatia yesterday. Have been asked to reflect briefly on the importance of the right to protection against poverty and social exclusion in times of crisis. In this sense, I feel that this is not time for economic austerity measures, political games theories, or formal legal speeches. Indeed, we already have legal instruments that recognize the right to protection against poverty and social exclusion. Therefore, we must make them effective. We have also suffered during the last years from a strong economic and financial crisis that is now aggravated by a health and humanitarian crisis around the world. Consequently, we must be able to mobilize all our energies and efforts so that this does not lead to a general crisis of human rights, since peace and respect for human rights is the greatest achievement of our civilization. From this perspective, I consider that approaching the right to protection against poverty and social exclusion surely represents the highest goal of law, which is to achieve justice and respect for human dignity. With these premises, the right to protection against poverty and social exclusion clearly reflects the indivisible and universal nature of all human rights, given that the protection against poverty imposes a commitment to full socio-economic citizenship, that means food, housing, health, clothes, and education, and at the same time, the safeguard against social exclusion means fighting for full civil political citizenship, that means democratic participation. Having said this, the three fundamental pillars that support the right to protection against poverty and social exclusion are its recognition, its guarantee, and its actual effectiveness. In terms of recognition, the 1996 revised European Social Charter is the first international legal instrument that autonomously recognizes in its Article 13 this right, with these two dimensions including social and political citizenship. In any case, the guarantee of the right has a transversal character, since it is closely related to other fundamental rights, for instance, the right to work, access to health, social security, social and medical assistance, the benefit of social welfare services, the right of people with disabilities, the right of elderly, protection of family, protection of children, protection of migrants and their families, or the right to housing. As we are seeing, the coronavirus crisis represents a huge challenge not only to safeguard the right to health, but also against bankruptcy of undertakings, against unemployment, and finally, against poverty and social exclusion affecting all people. To make these guarantees effective, the European Social Charter system establishes a collective complaints procedure that, in my opinion, has a double advantage. On the one hand, the European Committee of Social Rights plays an interesting preventive role since the exhaustion of domestic remedies is not required. And in the other hand, those who mobilize this procedure are the civil society organizations and the social partners. Prevention and commitment on the part of public authorities, on the part of all actors of civil society, and on the part of all citizens is the best antidote to fight against poverty and social exclusion, and even more in these times of economic and humanitarian crisis. The current coronavirus crisis implies fighting against a new and known enemy in a blind world and should make emerge a strong feeling of solidarity. The most important thing in the current context of crisis is not closing our eyes to the challenge of guaranteeing the right to protection against poverty and social exclusion. The present crisis should make us aware of a tremendous reality. We are all beneficiaries of human rights and in particular of the right to protection against poverty and social exclusion, since we are all equal before life and death, before health and disease. But there are people in a more vulnerable situation, and to protect them, we have to listen to their voice. Human rights pedagogy is essential, since human rights cannot be protected without knowing them. In conclusion, I would like to say something obvious. We have heard on many occasions that the value of human rights is equivalent to the value of the guarantees. This being so, it must be added that, in fact, the guarantees are equivalent to the positive willingness to make them effective, positive will and solidarity on the part of all public authorities at all levels, local, regional, state and international, all civil society organizations and mass media. Thank you very much, and I wish you all the best in these difficult times.